Welcome to League of Legends, the game where people get carpal tunnel from writing too much, advice is taken for an insult, and the most constructive criticism that you will find is made up of more creative ways of telling you to off yourself than any normal human being could think of. But without further ado, let's answer the question. Is League of Legends really that good? Now, I could start by explaining the gameplay loop of League, but I'm sure most of you by now know how to play the game in a normal setting. So, what better way to start things off than with my own controversial and biased opinion about what League of Legends is versus what League is supposed to be. Because while the mechanics, champions, items and strategies are all there, the mentality, players, will and drive are not. So how is League of Legends supposed to be played? Well, League is a type of game where you have to coordinate with your team in order to make the best decisions possible for your situation and recognize the small advantages that you have. In turn, creating a lead that will snowball the game in your favor. And sometimes you could come up with creative strategies that work and win in style. To put it into perspective, League is like a complicated version of 5v5 chess, where strategies from the past are useful in preparing for the future or in creating new strategies. And proper communication or understanding of your teammates is one of the best skills you can have when creating strategies that work. But without communication, League is nothing more than a free-for-all where everyone thinks they are the team leader. Keep this in mind as it will be important later. But of course, in League compared to chess, the meta changes. What was strong once could be weak now. The role of a queen in your team might be replaced with the role of a rook in a matter of months. If you ask someone what's the best example of how League of Legends should be played and their answer is anything related to the solo competitive ladder, then they are most likely wrong. In solo queue, League is simply a battle royale, where your skills is what matters, where you think that you're better than everyone, because you have to, where you use your team to your advantage to make plays around yourself. There is no we won, well played team or we lost, let's play better next time. It's I won, I 1v9'd, or I got bad teammates, GG, go next. And the worst part is that this type of ego got so big that having a different opinion or another plan in mind compared to one of these players means that you have to lose the game because they don't want to play anymore. I'm not exaggerating when saying that people give up from champion select because someone picked a non-meta champion in their team and they can't be asked to play with that champion. And since the champion selection subject just came up, I would like to talk about the harsh autofill system in League. In the top 0.1% of players in League, finding games becomes tough, especially since some roles are less attractive than others. And there comes a time when you take one for the team and they give you a role that you didn't specifically choose in order to get a match quicker. We could go hours on debates about whether or not a top level player should know how to play multiple roles, but that's not what I want to talk about. What I really want to bring up is the amount of players that are autofilled in your team compared to the enemy team. Because most of the time, you could have a team with 4 autofilled players and the enemy would have 1. And in most games, the team with more autofilled players will lose. In its current iteration, at high levels of play, the autofill system is flawed. One of the main problems with League of Legends right now is the lack of fun content to do and the rate of players quitting versus players joining. So why would it be hard for people to join the game? Well, League is a complicated game. There are lots of systems to memorize and keep track of, and the learning curve is massive. With smurfs being a thing, toxic players in almost every game, bots in actual ranked games, and the tutorials not teaching you much, it would be very hard for you to get into the game and stick with it for a long time. It would feel all too overwhelming. Unless you are very dedicated in becoming a good player, watching other streamers, or being taught by someone who has been playing for a long time, it will not take a long time for you to quit. League right now is not a very casual friendly game. It is not a type of game where you can play 2 to 3 normal games alone and feel happy with your time spent. If you're not a competitive player or someone who plays with friends, there isn't a lot of fun to be had. You could arguably try new builds and fun ways to play the game in order to get the most out of your time spent, but most of the time you will encounter teammates that will try to lose you the game more than your enemies just because they hate your style. What League really needs is more fun game modes and direct fun ways to play the game. Players shouldn't be forced to find the fun in the game. The game itself should be fun. But how does League fare in the competitive department? League is a team strategy game where one very good team leader can lead the team to victory with his calls. It's about knowing how strong the opponent is, or what he might do and how you can counter that. But it's also about knowing that you know this and trying to do something unpredictable. We can go back and forth on this, but this is where the adrenaline of League stands. The outcome of the war is amazing, seeing it all unfold with the help of polished mechanics and the skills of pro players. But the center of attention should also be in the battles before. The battle that predicted or planned that specific positioning or cooldowns to be wasted, and setting up your team for success before they even started fighting. It's acknowledging your teammates' strengths and weaknesses. It's respecting your opponent's skill, then making a strategy for it and playing around them. The people who give up on ego and play with the cards they are dealt to the best of their abilities are the ones who embody the competitive side of League. But that is how esports plays. The actual rank ladder, the top of the top players do not play exactly like that. There are definitely some diamonds in the rough and a few that earn their spotlight just by playing the game with the intention of improving themselves as much as possible. But the rank ladder can't perfectly match the feeling of playing in an organized team. Not with the current systems, not with the addition of extra pings and pop-up ads. It feels like Riot are dancing around the solution fully aware of it. There are ways to get closer to that feeling of playing like a team, and I will explain that in my next video. However, the current rank ladder is filled with bets, trolls, toxicity, and people who would rather lose the game just to get back at you for how you played yesterday. We could argue that ranked flex is supposed to fill the emptiness of communicating like a team in a ranked game, or that the class system they introduced in December 2017 that represents a competitive team-based tournament system was meant to scratch that specific itch that players had. However, neither system caters to people that have no friends that play the game. Not only that, Clash feels unrewarding to play if you lose one game that is not in the finals. You actually find that most players would rather abandon the tournament because they don't feel like it's worth it. Riot is trying to get rid of the problems that plague the solo queue ladder, but it is not nearly enough. You could blame the players for how the rank ladder turned out to be, but in my opinion the blame should solely rest on Riot Games. They are very bad at listening to player feedback overall. Sometimes it takes years of angry players or one very popular angry streamer in order for broken systems that have no logic to be fixed or changed. And let's not get into the report system. The report system is flawed. Riot themselves can't detect when a player will try their hardest to make it look like they aren't intentionally losing the game because they hate you. But Riot is sure fast on banning players for typing certain words. While I agree that overly toxic people should be banned, it takes a dozen if not hundreds of games to ban someone for outright intentionally losing you the game. And in either of those cases, $5 and they are back to trolling your games in a matter of days. Honors don't mean anything anymore. You cannot even honor your opponent for playing good for a long time now. There are absolutely no worthwhile benefits to it. In the past, I felt way more proud of having the honorable badge than now. But that might just be nostalgia speaking. Competitive players have no proper systems in place to protect them from players actively trying to lose their games. At high levels of play there are bets, win trading, and people with multiple trolling accounts. And at low levels of play, there are way too many smurfs trying to get their new accounts to high elo, and the winning team is almost always the one with more new accounts in it. And on the casual player side, they have no systems in place to protect them from overly toxic players trying to make their 2 hours of free time a complete waste, and they have no new game modes that cater to them. The only events they have are shop updates, which brings me to my next point, monetization. One thing that I'm really proud of when it comes to Riot is the monetization system they use. League makes money solely based on skin sales. Whether you buy them directly, earn them from boxes, or battle passes, most of these monetization ways feel like you're getting your money's worth usually. Most of the battle passes also feel like a good investment and most of the time rewarding you with points that can buy you a few boxes with skin shards in them. And while I'm happy about the monetization system being skin only, I really hate some of the ways they try to make money off of skins. The most recent one would be the latest shop update, the Space Groove capsules. They have released a prestige skin with it that cannot be purchased with money. You need a specific currency that you can gather randomly from normal boxes, or a set amount of the same currency when you open a specific amount of Space Groove capsules. In order to get that prestige skin, you would either have to have known about it coming for a long time, save up for no particular reason, or open 25 of those capsules. which if done that way would amount to 120 to 150 euros depending on where you are in Europe. That is absolutely inexcusable, since prestige skins are usually released in the battle passes as well, which meant that you would buy the battle pass for around 10 to 50 euros, save up battle pass tokens and get it. Another problem with the way they monetize skins is complete biased skin releases. Some champions could be getting multiple skins in a year, while some would take literal years for one skin to release. One more thing that doesn't sit right with me is the way the community discredits good players with good points or fun ways to win the game just because of their rank. If one of your ideas, opinions or ways of playing the game is good, but you're discredited for the rank you are or for the way you play the game, that is not a community where things prosper. It's not always the players at the top that find new ways of trying things or have good opinions about the game and how it should be played. Sometimes things change because some random guy in a low rank happened to be found out by someone at the very top, or the guy in a low rank improving to a point where he gets noticed. Unfortunately, the community is not very open-minded. They would rather attack everyone until proven wrong and calling it poor game balancing, when ingenuity coupled with skill beats meta. But if I'm listing so many bad things about League and all of these flaws are so apparent, then why is League still thriving? After every toxic team, there might be one that understands and communicates properly. After every lost game because of bad matchups or pure tilt from your side, there are moments when you played like the top 0.1%. After every 7-game loss streak where you demoted, there is a 10-game winning streak when you were at the top of your world. And after every troll ruining your game, you find one in the enemy team as well. Even if you might quit or decide to take a break from the game, there might be that one moment when you are watching a YouTube video and decide, hey, that looks like fun. Or that words moment that makes you want to come back to the game and think to yourself that if you discuss things thoroughly with your team, you might win the game. Only to then get flamed and reported at the end of the game. The point I'm really trying to make is that League is an addicting game. No matter how bad it was or it might be right now, there are always reasons that make us feel like it's okay to come back. Underneath all these issues and problems, there are still moments that we hold dear and wish to experience again. We are all in search of something while playing, whether it is fame, glory, happiness, or pretending that our teammates are self-proclaimed therapists. We can never bring back those moments that once were, but we can bring back those feelings. Telling the truth about a game is an easy feat. Identifying the goods and the bads is a task that anyone can do. I'm sure a lot of people have ideas on how to fix the game. But how would I fix League of Legends?